Hello there, Pisces, and welcome to your monthly reading. This is for the month of November. I hope that everything's going well for you, and it's great to see everybody again. In addition to almost being the end of the year, we're also going through a retrograde period, and I know that for many of you, this can cause a sense of uncertainty or doubt. So let's demystify all of this. When we talk about Mercury, we're talking about the planet, the one that is closest to the sun. And what happens during a retrograde is if you look up into the night sky, Mercury appears to be traveling in a reverse trajectory of what it normally would in the night sky. This is an optical illusion, and it takes place for a few weeks. During this period of time, that's what we call Mercury retrograde. So it's an illusion, and therefore, because Mercury, like the god Mercury, rules communication, our communication's off a little bit. Sometimes you think you're saying something, but the other person perceives it differently. So tone, intent, context, these things can get lost in communication, which is why it's essential to have other people listen to whatever it is you're going to verbally say. So if you have a public speech, you want to definitely test that out on a smaller audience and make sure that it's received well. If you're doing anything visually, some sort of an illustration, animation, putting things together in a package, you want to make sure that people are understanding, again, the sort of visual cues that you're trying to convey. And if you have a combination of the two, you also want to just be careful that the marriage of visuals and audio and music, all of that stuff makes sense, because things can just get lost in translation. That gets extended to other things such as contracts, because what is a contract but a written document? So if you have to sign a contract during this period, you want a very good lawyer to explain everything to you. You can take a look at the almanac to see the exact time and date, but I think it's sometime between the 20th and 21st that Mercury goes direct. Anytime after that, it's much easier to deal with contract negotiations, with public speaking, and some of the other things that I'm going to cover in a minute. But between now and then, just be careful. Sometimes you have to move forward anyway, and that's part of my message, is that you can't feel beholden to this planet. You have to just sort of work with some of the constraints it's going to put on us, but life goes on, right? In addition to communication and contracts, technology tends to be a little bit trickier during this period. So computers are more prone to crash. You might have a cell phone where it's constantly dropping the connection on a call. Automobiles and other modes of transportation also become less predictable. So you might have a flat tire, you might have a battery issue pop up. Other electronics, such as if you have a fire alarm, that can go off. Televisions may be acting up, remotes may not function the way they should. There's just weird blips that happen with technology, and it's exacerbated a little bit during this period. In addition to that, I would say that because we're looking at communication, contracts, reservations, and now all this technology, it's not a surprise that travel takes a hit as well, because it's relying on all of these things. So plan for delays. Maybe your plane gets redirected, or there's a layover. If you're driving, again, maybe the GPS isn't working. Whatever happens to go wrong, just kind of roll with the punches. And I would advise certain things like making sure that you have good traveler's insurance. If you're driving, make sure you have AAA or some equivalent of roadside assistance, and always make sure your cell phone is charged and you have like a backup battery or one of those extra chargers that you can plug it into, like a case that charges it or something like that. Just plan for the unexpected, and that extra level of preparedness is going to make it easier when and if these little inconveniences come through, okay? We can't stop life during retrograde, but we can be a little bit more prepared, and we can try not to take it so personally when some of these things are going on. I think that's the key takeaway. All right, so enough about some of the difficulties. Let's talk about some of the blessings during a retrograde. One of the things that I think most of you will be most interested in is that intuition is heightened during this period, particularly what you dream or what you kind of see in your visions and meditations. A lot of times, things that are otherwise hidden will come to your mind's eye during this period. So if somebody in your life is in pain, in need, or is upset with you, that will come through. If there's a message that you need to know about something going on in your life, that will also come through. Mostly because retrograde is a time to fix things that are cyclically kind of happening to you or might be a little bit broken down. So you will have a chance to basically release things that no longer suit you. So if there's something that you've been putting off, whether it has to do with business, your health, or a relationship. Retrograde has a way of pushing that right in front of you and saying, guess what? You need to, on a soul level, resolve this so that you can move on to the next thing. This is blocking you. So I'm going to put it in front of you, and you're going to deal with it one way, shape, or form. In addition to this, there's a really nice blessing, and it can kind of work in conjunction with what just happened, which is you get second chances. So if you've failed at something in the past, try it again during retrograde, because you may have sort of learned from that past experience, but also have better luck during this period. Retrograde is a time to kind of do anything that starts with RE. So things like revising, reviewing, revisiting, perfect. Anything that's already started but needs to be finished, you're pretty safe during this period. If you're a writer, this is a good time to go back and edit something. If you're thinking of making some sort of a big change in your life, what you can do is research during this period. Digging into things that already exist and making plans for the future is fine. Just don't hit the button to make everything happen until the end of the month, or better yet, like December 1st is going to be awesome. So this is a month to finish, to review, to research, and to really set yourself up for success in the months to come. The final thing that I'd like to talk about, and it really is a nice blessing, is that you get second chances. If there's anything you failed at before, try it again this month. You may have greater success, not only because you've learned, but energetically you're a little less attached to it. You've already gone through that process of realizing it may not happen, and the detachment that you have in some ways actually helps kind of bring it closer to you. So now hopefully that gives you a bigger view of what you want to avoid and what you want to embrace. Again, embracing second chances, heightened intuition, and the ability to resolve old situations that have either been pushed to the side or that you really have been kind of carrying around with you. It's that revelation and release that really is the blessing in disguise of retrograde. Sometimes we focus too much on some of those other things, which, by the way, are sometimes mechanisms to allow for what we just talked about. It all works together. Trust in the universe and try not to get too upset about retrograde. You should be fine. All right, before I get too much deeper into the forecast and talking about energy and everything, I feel like I need to introduce myself. My name is Nicholas Ashbaugh. For those of you that are return viewers, I just want to say thank you so much, not only for your support, but continuing to work on yourself. That's why I show up, and I appreciate you. If you're brand new, I also appreciate you, and I'd like to welcome you to this channel. Each and every month, this is how I organize my readings. I like to start off with some channeled information. That's when I work with my guides and higher self, and I bring through whatever I hear, feel, or see during that period of the reading. The next thing that I do is I will take the cards and I'll pull a full Celtic cross to look at all of the blessings, any of the blocks that are coming through, and really help get everybody prepared for all of that. And then I extend the forecast to look at health, wealth, love, and destiny, making sure that we hit on each of those key elements that I know all of you appreciate. So as you can see, this is really comprehensive. And by the way, it can be used for your sun, rising, and moon sign. You can also use it on behalf of someone that you care about in your life. And if you don't happen to know sun, rising, and moon, then just stick with your birth sign, and that's going to give you all that you need. If you like what you see here, and I certainly hope you do, please stick around until the end. In addition to giving a concise overview of everything that we've talked about, I'll also let you know how you can give back and support the channel. Small things like liking and subscribing, sharing what you see here, joining me on social media, they all make a big impact, as does booking an appointment or even becoming a patron. I'll get into all of the specifics of how that functions and how it helps at the end, but right here and right now, I would like to get into the channel messages for November, so let's do that. All right, Pisces, as I selected a deck of cards this month and tuned into the energy of your sign, what came through to me was this sense of overwhelming strength and power. And it came through in my shoulder area, but also in the solar plexus. So this is telling me that when it comes to any sort of challenge in your life, whether it's a very strong-willed coworker or a parent that's kind of driving you crazy, or you're just feeling sort of like, why do I have to keep trying so hard? The first thing that I see is that it's going to get better, but this month is a little bit of a push. And the word that came to me in automatic writing was persevere, followed up by an encouragement that you've got this. I kind of get this vision of you being like Atlas trying to hold everything up. And what you could try to imagine during your meditations and your sort of daily affirmation is that it's easier, it's getting lighter every day. You could just think, this world, what? I've got this, and just kind of push it off your back. So whatever weight you have, I want you to sit up in the morning, kind of pull your shoulders back, take a really deep breath, and just feel like the energy around you is lightening. Breathe out any sort of lower frequency things like fear, doubt, frustration, even anger, whatever this kind of like stuck in your energy, let it out. And I think that it would be really great for you to do something that would be a great release for this. So I mentioned to some signs that, if you laugh, that's a great way to release energy and stress. Exercise, like swimming, is great too, especially if you're surrounded in water, because that's a natural clearing agent. And for you, I think that it's going to be equally as important. I get that you need to be with people this month. So I think that even if your schedule's really, really busy, make sure that you have extra time kind of baked in so that you can hang out with friends, or that you can, if you're like me and sometimes you like to just have distraction around you, if you're writing or you need to do something, sometimes you're better in a busy room than kind of all alone at home. So even if you go and work at a local cafe and you're reading a book, or you just feel like you need to distract yourself, get out of your current situation and be with other people. I feel like that interaction, even if it's just talking to a couple people in the room, is going to help you, and it's going to lighten the energy around you. So that's what I have to say this month, and I'm going to be very curious to see what the cards have to show, but I feel like it's going to get easier towards the end of the month. So persevere, don't give up. Imagine that the weight that you're holding is getting lighter, and then just eventually imagine that you don't have anything there at all, that you're standing up tall and you're standing upright in your meditation, and that you've got this. That's what I keep getting from my guides. You've got this, okay? So let's see what you've got. I'm gonna shuffle all the cards. We'll take a look at the highs, the lows, everything else, and please stick around. First, I like to remain quiet, but right afterwards, I'll go through each and every card for the month ahead. All right, Pisces, we have a very similar message coming through here in your catalyst. It says, have faith. And it's showing that some of you may be at that kind of precipice where you're thinking, I don't know, you're going to have to show me some things coming through. So the faith card is coming through and saying, it's okay, you have to stay positive, because I've been mentioning this across the board, but I really think that as you all are starting to work on yourself month to month to month, your manifestation skills are starting to get more and more and better and better. And part of that, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. When you think negatively, you can actually attract negative sort of situations. So I want you to believe that you've got what it takes to get through the challenges, and there are a few, I see them here, and that you're going to have a period of rest and celebration when this is all done, because I also see that. So let me go through everything and we'll talk about it. By the way, this is a chakra deck, so it's really interesting that I see stuff here from the solar plexus. You'll want to really pay attention to your core this month. There may be a sort of sensitivity in that space that could lead to things like indigestion or stomach pains, And one way that you can strengthen this is to really make sure that you're doing like yoga, Pilates, sit-ups, etc. And even when you're sitting here, you can kind of like activate the core a little bit and get it to a point where it's stronger even when you're doing passive type exercises, okay? Your centermost card is the Seven of Cups. This has showed up a lot this month, and this is about being distracted. One of the positive areas of the Seven of Cups is it's really good if you want to brainstorm, if you want to explore opportunities. It's good for researching. But when it comes to day-to-day life and when it's at the center of everything, what it's telling me is that many of you may be overwhelmed by the choices, you may be inundated by questions and information, and you may be at a point in your sort of month, especially when you're listening to this, where you just wonder, how am I going to get everything together? How am I going to get all of this done? And it's almost like all these little questions in your head swirl around until it creates a vortex. So I want you to quiet it down. And in fact, this is crossed by the Chariot, which is saying, control your thoughts, bring in your train of thought so that you're really just looking at one or two things. There's two horses on a typical chariot. This is a steampunk deck, so it's slightly different. But normally there would be one or two things that you would be focusing on, because otherwise you just can't make traction. It's like the horses are pulling you all at once in all different directions, and the chariot just goes to pieces. So this period of brainstorming, exploration, and thinking about things, it needs to be reined in. You need to try to pick a couple of things and make that your priority. I believe the reason that you're in this state of sort of confusion or exploration is because of all of the change cards going on. We have Death, Judgment reversed, the World, the Fool reversed, and the Devil. The Devil is also reversed. So this change, whatever it is, it's getting you out of a situation that doesn't work, but it may have been difficult for you to make, or it may have been made for you. With Judgment and with Death here, someone or something may have been taken from you or passed on its own, or could have even been stolen. Whatever it is, the death or the loss is something that you're now trying to make sense of, and I think that's why you are kind of stuck in the center there. So with all of that being said, this month is really about getting your bearings and resetting expectations and kind of embracing this newfound freedom that many of you have, because I do see liberation as a sort of end result of all of this. So let's take each card by card. Looking at Deep Past, we talked a little bit about the change, the transformation, the death. So death can be symbolic, a choice that you make. It can also be a choice made for you. It doesn't really matter if you lose a person, a place, or a thing. The grieving process remains pretty constant. So I think the most important thing for you this month is to sort of reevaluate what's important to you and really what you want to start doing now with the free time or the new opportunity that's kind of on the horizon. In the recent past, we have the Judgment card in reverse. This can come through in a corporation, in a life situation, a friendship group, when somebody is sort of shifted in and everybody's trying to make sense of it afterwards. So when you have the Tower reversed, a lot of times you can participate, you can kind of mold it. When Judgment comes through, it's more about learning about something that's already happened and trying to figure out why it happened and who the new person is and how to deal with it. And if it's a company, it can also be like an acquisition or a merger. And it's sort of like, well, now how does this fit in with everything? So this is another reason that the Seven of Cups can be here. It's sort of a figuring out of who am I? How do I fit in with this? How does this now fit in with my life? And do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? So there's a lot of choices this month, even like it's death and world on multiple levels. So someone may have left, someone new may have come in. Now you're trying to figure out, do you want to stay? And there's a lot of choices with this. So it's not one. I actually see sort of like dominoes. And so all the choices you make this month are going to affect future states. And that's why it's really important that you have faith, that you stay positive, and instead of thinking something limiting like, I'm never going to find the love of my life, I'm never going to get out of this situation, I'll never find the house that I'm looking for, switch it around and think, I can't wait for the next job. It's going to be so much more fulfilling than this. It cannot be worse. It won't be worse. I can't wait to meet someone of an equal or better energetic frequency with whom I can share my life. Or what was the other thing? I'm going to find my dream home. It's going to look like this. Really think in the affirmative. Put the positive out there, because if you're putting the negative, not only are you going to feel disheartened as you start the day and work through all the tasks at hand, but you aren't going to be paying attention to all of the markers out there that are saying, hey, by the way, what you're looking for is actually over here, but you're so kind of focused on this thinking that it can't happen that you miss it, okay? There's a difference between ridiculous delusions and manifestation. With manifestation, you know that you've done the work that you need to get something, and you've now just opened up the key and saying, I'm ready, you can come in now. So try to practice the latter and just be expecting for something really amazing to take place. And realize that also as part of that affirmation, just think, I can handle this, I've got this. It's not gonna be as hard as it feels right now. This is one day, this is one moment, and this is all going to pay off. That's another thought that you can have. When I was meditating, I saw the world. It was interesting. I felt like Atlas had the world. You have the world, but have you ever thought of the other way of looking at this? Like, it's almost like the Two of Wands where the world is in that person's hands. I actually feel like that's what's going on here. Look at this as, I can now create something new in my life. I walked away from something, or something was taken away from me. I'm trying my best to deal with that. I may have to stay a little bit in this situation, but not long. The truth of the matter is, I'm ready, near future by the way on this one, to move on. So in order to do that, I'm gonna have faith that something is going to happen in the world around me to allow me to see that's the place to go. In some way, shape, or form, movement will happen for you. The World card is fantastic, especially as your crowning card. For anybody who's creative, this is a distribution card. Broadcasting, publication, dissemination, publicity, it's great. Nothing bad about the world. It's globalization too. You're gonna reach more people. As just an attribute in your own person, it's a worldly view. It's about travel, it's about expansion. It means learning and seeing and feeling and tasting more. So you are going from a place of limitations to a place of expansion. And it feels like it's rather rapid. This is going to happen, I would say, within the next month, because we have the Fool card in the near future, and this would be 1, 2, or 3 months out. That shows me moving, traveling, moving on. Something's going on, and it's gonna happen pretty quickly. So if you're looking for a resolution to a conflict or to a situation that feels difficult to control, you don't have to wait too long. I see that movement happening, and I feel like you're gonna be on to bigger and better things in not too short of a time, okay? Looking now at that Fool card, at the very least, some of you should be planning a trip or a vacation, or should be amping up your physical activity, because this has everything to do with sort of like walking, running, spending time outdoors. But it's also about a sort of ephemeral trip, a short-term sort of experience. So you can have that as well. This is gonna help prepare you for the bigger move that is happening in your life or in your body, especially if it's sort of an energetic shift. Speaking of which, this can also be, wow, these can all be sort of indicators of a Kundalini awakening for some of you. So if all of a sudden you just feel this surge of energy or creativity or this need to change your entire life, that could actually be happening. There could be an internal awakening going on with all of these cards. As a part of an awakening, or as a part of any of these sort of grieving processes or changing processes, because it's happening in the midst of a retrograde, that's why the devil's in the ego. It's reverse, which means you're stepping away from limiting thoughts, limiting factors, or limiting energies. That is a good thing. But there are still some strings attached. And so this month, I've mentioned this in a few signs, check out my old video on contract releases. I'm sure there are other ones out there as well that you can look at. But basically, I want you to take a look at living and also deceased people in your life with whom you still feel like there might be karma or some sort of resentment or whatever, and you can do this contract release to let go of that so that they can move on and you can move on as well. You can do it with people that you're married to, with people that you're friends with as well. It will not disconnect you from them. What it's going to do is release old contracts, old sort of karmic patterns that actually inhibit healthier connections. So there's often a misperception and a misconception, I should say, with cord cutting, which is that if I cut these cords, I'll no longer be connected. No, that's not the case. You can and you should always keep the heart chakra open and think, I love you unconditionally, and we are always connected unconditionally through the heart. But I'm going to remove some of the other attachments that are holding me back or holding us back. Think of it as sort of like rusty pipes in an old house. Sometimes you have to go through and replace the connections or remove them altogether, and that's all you're doing when you remove the cords. So with the devil reverse, the other things that are coming through, if we take it outside of loss and all of that, this is saying that you need to take care of yourself. This is a wake-up call from a physical point of view. Some of you may have experienced a close call, maybe even a near-death experience in the past. Both of these cards are associated with near-death. And so what this has done is sort of given you that wake-up call that I better take better care of my body so that I can last and be on this planet as long as I can. And this could also be from the loss in your life. If it was a spouse, a child, or a loved one, this is a reminder of how fleeting and how unpredictable life can be sometimes. So what you can do, though, with all of these is keep that connection to spirit, because it's strong, really strong with judgment. You are protected by angelic energy, and you are now being elevated because of that experience with or brush with death, so that you can do bigger things on the planet. You may be called to do a path of faith or spiritual work. So whatever's going on in your life, I actually feel like this is an elevation or an upgrade for you. Just one more note with the devil card. If there's anything in your life where you've been trying to release an addiction, a toxic situation, some sort of habit that you just really don't want anymore, that's a really good thing to be focusing on. It's in the ego. It's the area that wants to sort of be cleared and cleaned from a soul perspective. So invest in that, okay? Speaking of investments, when we look in your environment, we have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. This can often show costs or expenses that are coming in through your house, your business, or even just other personal expenses. So be aware of that and plan for it. It's the only money card that came up, so it doesn't feel like this is going to put you in a great deficit. You just want to budget accordingly and plan for some extra expenditures this month. Whenever I see Pentacles in reverse, it's also about investing in yourself. So the fact that that's right on top of the devil tells me that this is a really good time for you to look at things that you might feel like you want to do for self-improvement. Maybe that's going back to school. Maybe that's eating better. Maybe that's just learning about something. Whatever it is, there's a little bit of internal work that needs to happen. Pentacles also have to do with worth. And so, and this is about receiving compliments or receiving positivity. I want you to set yourself up for a place where you feel like you're ready for good news, you're ready for positive movement, and if you're not getting paid enough, by the way, because that card is connected to the devil, definitely negotiate that. See if you can talk about a raise or promotion in your current job, or look and see for your next one if you can get a little bit of a bump up in pay and in title, if that's what you need. Okay, so let's move along now to hopes and fears. We have the Knight of Cups there. It's reversed as well, which is showing me that one of the things that you'll have to work on this month is how to turn things around from an emotional perspective. That's a highly creative card. Any of the court cards for the Suit of Cups is, it's fantastic whenever you're artistic or when you're trying to kind of open up your sensitivity. But because this is attached to money, because it's right next to a lot of cards showing movement, then I think this is one of those contributing factors that's making it a little harder to focus and concentrate. In the outcome, we have the solution to much of this, which is make sure that you get enough rest, take a vacation if you can, and really before you make any major changes or decisions, you have at least one, you're going to need to sleep on it and really allow for enough time for all of these things to process. The whole feeling of change or of grieving or of loss, they're all kind of very similar energies. The exhilaration with possibly having something new come into your life, the overall emotional roller coaster that's been the ups and downs. Let's go ahead and expand the forecast, and we'll get some additional information in the areas of health, wealth, love, and destiny. We're going to start with health. Health is mind, body, and spirit. And this encouragement here is to just really eat well and put good things in your body. That is absolutely underlined and supported by the devil reversed. Anything toxic, alcohol, smoking, nicotine, anything that you're doing that is somehow bringing your frequency lower. Definitely any other types of harder drugs. This is the time to find a way to get sober, clean, and clear. Because as these changes are happening in your life, you can't afford to have something that is pulling you down or pulling you away from embracing the positive energy of something that we would see with the World card. Yes, it costs a little bit more to sometimes eat well, but it's kind of like putting good gasoline or good energy into a mechanical sort of machine. by doing that, there's going to be a longer lifespan and there's going to be less maintenance down the road. So think of it from that perspective. Or when I look at something like that, which is about consumption, it's also telling me pay attention to consumption of media, music, environmental factors around you, and make sure that everything is of that healthier, happier, higher frequency, okay? As we look at wealth, this is where I do feel like some of you feel like you're stuck. We have all tied up. It reminds me of the Hanged Man when it's reversed. And what I think is that some of you are just tied for a moment here in time because of the money situation. So either find a way to transfer, find a new opportunity within the company so you could get promoted, or find a new job if that's the situation. If you own your own company, it's about making sure that prices are put in the correct sort of categories so that you are getting enough for the services you're providing, or maybe changing things to adjust to all of the different appetites. You know, every season things are going to shift. You just have to be flexible with this. There's something that is askew with either your price point in a business or the wages that you're earning, and I think that's the area that needs to be fixed. And if it can't be, then it's time to try something new. The World and the Fool are absolutely about moving up, moving on. So you're not all tied up forever. It's just really the current money situation is not adequate, and it feels like for many of you that's what's holding you back. As we move along to love, we have the base chakra, and this has to do with your feeling of security, your feeling of grounding, and I think for some of you it could be off a little bit if you're moving or traveling too much. So I didn't mention this. Some of this could just be if you're not leaving a job. The fact that the World and the Fool and the Devil card are existing tells me that there's something about this constant motion or this need to move more. There's something about moving that seems to be affecting your base chakra. So you want to focus on grounding exercises. Sitting outside with your feet on the ground, the base of your spine on the ground as well. You can even lay back. Just feel a connection to Mother Earth. Allow her energy to kind of ground you and take you into a place of feeling sort of like you've got this hug from the planet. That will help you. You also want to be looking at your relationships. Do you trust the person that you're with? If you don't, that's a reason to really have a serious conversation and evaluate why you're with that person, or if you're ready for the kind of relationship that's presenting itself, because it may not be the highest frequency. All right, as we take a look at the Destiny card, it says, softly, softly, the tender touch, and it's reversed. I want you to be kind with yourself this month. A lot of times at the end of my readings, I'll say, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. This is actually really what this is saying. Try not to take everything as if it's going to be, so difficult, so hard. I mentioned earlier in the meditation, if there's a way that you can feel like you've got this, the world is getting lighter, that you can handle this, that you're actually being handed like a new opportunity, this is going to help. The expectation that it's going to get easier, the feeling that you have it, resting and taking care of yourself, something I've had to do over the past few days, it's really, really key, because otherwise there's no way that it's going to shift. You have to shift emotionally and intellectually and spiritually first to allow for these external things to take place. Does that make sense? I hope so. So at this point, what I'd like to do is review everything that we talked about, because we did go through a lot here, and then I'll leave you with your closing word. Your channeled message this month was to persevere and to really insert that feeling that you've got this. I mentioned back at the beginning that it almost felt like you were Atlas holding up the world. Guess what? We saw the world here, but Atlas was more than able to do this, and it's not a punishment for you. I want you to kind of reverse that thought and make it more like the Two of Wands, where you have the world in your hand, and you can use that as an opportunity to manifest, to create, to call into existence things that you care about. And it's important to have faith, to stay strong, to believe that things not only can but will improve. All of this, by the way, is shifting you towards something bigger, better, and brighter. The beginning of the month will be punctuated by a feeling of trying to get your bearings, trying to figure out what you want, whether that's planning for the year ahead, looking at all the opportunities in front of you, or figuring out how to make sense of what the changes were that already happened. It's going to be okay. Try to get some organization. Don't allow yourself to go too far in that sort of what-if mode. And eventually you're going to be able to embrace the shift and embrace the change that's happening around you. Some of you are dealing with death or loss, because we have the Death card and Judgment, which functions as a reincarnation card and also dealing with the whole process of losing someone and then the world moving on. And then the Fool card, feeling free and allowing for something new to come into your life. And Four of Swords, which is also resting and being at peace with that. So I do feel like some of you are moving through the process of mourning and will be fine. This can involve a change at a corporation where a company is sold or merged, and it does still feel like there will be peace associated with that. But you may choose to move on. If that's the case, the new company may not be what you want. In your own money, in your own health, in your own finances, this also shows that it's time to reevaluate. No matter where you're at in your life, whether change has happened or you're happy and are wondering what's next, it feels like change is necessary. For you, 2020 will look markedly different than 2019. And when I'm looking at these cards up here, they're not so difficult. I honestly feel like you've been through the most challenging pieces. Near future, the Fool. It could be a trip, it could be a vacation, it could just be that feeling of releasing and allowing whatever has happened to happen. When you move past the Devil and heal what's really attached to it, which is money, then you start to feel emotionally much better. And again, you can kind of rest easy, sleep easily. So you have some sort of personal work to do this month, but the end result is that you will have a new opportunity, a new job, something brand new in your life that will give you a sense of freedom and liberation that I don't think you've had in a long time. Looking at your health this month, keep it clear, keep it clean. This is in food. This is in any sort of substances that you allow in your space, in your body. When it comes to money, this is the number one thing I want you to focus on after either whatever this change is or whatever this loss is. You have to start to fix your financial situation. This is going to help you with your safety and your grounding that we see here in love with the base chakra. I feel like you have all of this internal work to do first before looking too much at new love or existing love. There's some personal work that is going to affect everything around you. If you are single and looking, you may have two partners that come into your life. Just be careful. When I see the Devil card in new relationships, it usually means that one or both parties is either unavailable or unready for the sort of opportunity in front of them. If you're in an existing relationship, you still have to work through honesty and trust, and that's really what we see here. Okay, for the outcome with softly, the tender touch. Be careful with yourself, be kind with yourself, allow for change to happen gently. It doesn't have to be like a band-aid that you're ripping off. The Fool card and the Four of Swords mean you can walk, you can slowly move into the changes in your life. They're going to be much more sustainable if you do it that way. All right, Pisces, that brings us to the end of this forecast. Hopefully I gave you everything that you need to navigate some of the changes that are happening this month. If you ever feel like you want to talk a little bit more about something that I discussed here in this general reading, or if there's something specific going on in your life and you need more advice, feel free to reach out to me. You can click on the first card in the video or the first link below it. This will connect you to my booking site where you can check out rates and availability. So if that makes sense for you, then I look forward to talking to you soon. Otherwise, another way that you can support this channel is through becoming a patron. I mentioned earlier that everything that you see here is a direct result of other people's love, support, and contributions. So if you would like to give a one-time contribution or a continuing one, you can click on that second card, second link, and it will take you to a page on my site where you can look at a lot of different options. PayPal is one of them, Patreon, and also just clicking the join button here. But all of that is detailed on my patron page, and I just want to say thank you in advance if you're thinking of doing it, and if you've already done it, then I dedicate today's reading to you. You made everything possible, so much appreciation. Another way that you can show support is by joining me on social media. Clicking on the third card and the third link will take you to a page on my site that can basically provide all the links, so it's just one click at a time and it's super easy. Also, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do that as well. Once you've joined me on social media, if you feel inclined to share, I want to go ahead and encourage you to do that. Every time you share something on your feed, it helps me with a couple of my planetary goals, which is to create great conversations around spirituality, to give people the tools that they need to become better people, and to shine some light on this planet and hopefully help pass on the torch. That's why I show up, and I just want to say that I appreciate you. I appreciate your support in that endeavor as well. For your closing word this month, Pisces, I really want to encourage you to reach for the goals that you really want in your life. If you've ever felt like you've been held back or that you couldn't do it, this is the month for that breakthrough to happen where you realize, I can. It's just going to take a leap of faith. And sometimes it's scary because you're not always sure or certain what's going to happen with your finances. Emotionally, it can be a little bit taxing and trying. But what I'm seeing in the past for many of you is a feeling that it's been stuck for a while. It's been kind of not exactly what you're looking for. And there is a great sense of ease and relaxation that happens ultimately with some of these changes that many of you are going to choose to make in your life. Go softly and easy with some of these changes. It doesn't have to all happen in one fell swoop. Take your time. The most important thing is that you feel safe and secure and ready to make that change. Otherwise, it can make you kind of have that feeling of being dizzy or not able to deal with everything going on. And that's what we were really seeing at the center. So practice meditation, work on grounding this month, and honestly have faith that these changes are going to be beneficial. For the most part, everything that I see it's moving you into a place of greater control, greater abundance, and more opportunities in your life. And that's all we can ask for, right? I'd like to end with gratitude and thank you for allowing me to spend the last 40 minutes or so with you. You have so many choices that it honors me to be a part of your journey. And until we meet again in December, have a fantastic month. Take care of yourself and best wishes always.